Into the Pugs and Parker stream for a Monday evening. We do this every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's the second of two streams that I do. I do the high noon stream. Thank you. Those are Parker applause. They sound muddy and disjointed. I do the high noon stream every day, noon, where it's just hot topics, current events, all of that good stuff. All right, Parker and E are both here. How are you, gentlemen? Did you have yourselves a fine, familiar Easter weekend? Okay, that's
Who goes first?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not gonna play. If James is just gonna respond with sound effects, James, how was your weekend?
My weekend was, oh man, it was like a sitcom because my in-laws got in on Thursday and they just left this morning.
Yeah.
So I had my wife's mom, dad, and maternal grandmother stay with me. So.
Hold on, that was me.
Hi, Bob.
I just accidentally called our guest tonight. I'm having some cord noises over here. I did want to say one thing. Our guest tonight, boy, is this going to be fun. I'll tell you all about that in a second. But James and E, we need to figure out, there was a great mystery surrounding the ongoing process that we're engaging in here, which is the production of the Who Killed Live 105.3, working title, podcast series. On Friday, somebody, did you guys, I think we all got them, right? Those pictures, that treasure trove of pictures from the early 105.3 days. Now, somebody who, we don't know who this person is. That's what I say. It's a great mystery. I have no clue who this guy is. Should I? I don't know. Maybe I should.
Of course you should.
Why? They don't go by any name on their social media other than made up social media names. It's not like, how should I know who it is? It's a mystery. So he put together a very nice, I don't know, what was it?
How do you know it's a he if you don't know?
It's a he.
We don't know. We don't know
It's a montage of pictures that someone did either a fantastic job of retroactively scrubbing off the internet or who was involved intimately in our...
Yes, somebody had access.
Yeah,
somebody who had up close and personal access. So I'm thinking someone in promotions. I'm thinking, actually, a lot of those pictures, I know who took a lot of those pictures, because a lot of those pictures were taken by Scott Rickamore, who used to take pictures of everything back in the early days.
But if they were put online, then anyone can go harvest Scott's pictures.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was the thing. Somebody put together a really nice, probably 6-minute long video, YouTube video of all of these pictures. And I just said on Twitter to the person who created it, I said, wow, that's great. I haven't seen it. I have no pictures. I haven't seen any of this. And they directed me to, and there's probably 200 pictures in the montage that he made. There's a treasure trove of like 7 million pictures online that I spent the whole weekend going through. And all I can tell you is, man, it's those kinds of emotional, connective response. I remembered so many new stories, new people, just looking at these pictures from 25 years ago, and I'm going, oh my God, I forgot about that night. Oh, I remember what happened to that dude. All of these amazing emotions and memories come flooding back. Yeah, E.
Well, no, I was saying, for everybody that has listened this far, or who has had at least a little bit of engagement with us on the Who Killed 105.3 journey, this, for me, like, just reunited a whole bunch of internal fire on this particular project.
Oh, really?
Like seeing those images and seeing the different people and the people that have passed and died, and like the people that have went on and had big time careers, like comics and stuff like that. And then the intimate relationship that this person or whoever it was had with our show, or different people that were interacting there, and not being able to call out specifically who it is has
Yeah, I don't know what
bothered
it is.
me
I'd like to
all
think about.
weekend.
I know that the person who was behind the lens on a lot of those were Scott Rickamore, but I don't know that that's the person who's going by Channel 9 or the person who created this whole thing. It really is amazing how just, pictures can look. We are in the dog days of this project. We're coming up to the end of it. We're running up on the end of the interviews and all that stuff. But it's getting boring. You know what I mean? It's getting to be work at this point. And when you see something like that, those pictures, it sort of rekindles it. It makes you go, ah! So I know exactly what you're saying, E.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it threw different ammunition, I guess, in the
It was
in the
nice. It was
arse,
a feel good. It
like,
was really nice. It was
yeah,
nice to see. Yeah.
it felt like we
Yeah.
were being heard
You don't
at
even have
this
to be
point.
someone who is in the pictures to realize that there's some pictures where it's like Pugs with Bruce Kahn and Paco and Sean Rouse.
Right.
And Pugs is the only one still with us.
Yeah.
And we've
Yeah.
done nothing special to merit, it being them and not us. We're just here by the grace of God. That could have just have been as easily me, who got cancer, some weird cancer in my 30s and
Right.
passed away like Paco did. He didn't do anything wrong to deserve that.
No.
I didn't do anything right to not deserve that. So it just, man,
Bruce didn't do anything wrong, Sean Rouse did a lot wrong. Sean Rouse probably could have lived another 20 years, but he sped that process up with his own life choices. But I see what you're saying. Anyway, I think.
So let's not be thieves of this. Let's share it. How do people get to see it?
I've shared it on all the socials, so people can find it that way.
But you can't share it right now.
Come on. We got a very important guest here, and that's why I wanted to sort of talk about that before we segue into our guest.
Yeah, for sure.
This guest today that we're going to talk to, I think this is another one of those moments in this process where we're going to get reignited, where we're going to be re-engaged with the whole. Bob McNeil was the program director of 105.3 before it was The Talk That Rocks, and then, of course, what we're calling Live 105.3. By the way, I do feel it's important to make the distinction. I make no distinction between Live 105.3 and The Talk That Rocks. It's just branding. It's just a different suit that the station
No,
wears.
we all agree with that.
We all agree with that. Yeah. So when I say the podcast is going to be called Who Killed Live 105.3, that's why I keep saying it's a working title, because I'm not entirely comfortable with that being the brand that gets, the most credit, but we'll see. So Bob McNeil was in charge. He was there at the flip, and I think that between him and Reed Reeker, who we hope to speak to at some point this week, we tried to speak to him last week, between Bob McNeil, the original program director, and Reed Reeker, the original general manager, I think we're going to get a really good idea of what the origin story is. And also, we have to be honest, there is nobody that can tell us about Ron and Don other than Bob McNeil, because we haven't interviewed anybody who knows anything about that stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, one of my favorite people, the original program director at 105.3, his name is Bob McNeil. James, you want to go ahead and bring Bob in if you can? Look at him there in California. Hi, Bob.
You had to bring up Ron, right? Yeah. Okay.
You hold the keys to their story. We don't know anything about their story.
First of all, thank you. I haven't talked to you since I left Dallas, I don't think. And I missed you. And I've kind of followed you, surreptitiously, so I know, thank you for letting me have. I'm doing great.
Just hold on, Bob.
Deductible is paid on me. What?
Hold on. Time out. The sound is not good. Does anybody have any suggestions on the sound? Yeah, the sound is a little bit. You're up there in the mountains.
Oh man. Yes. Okay.
It's going in and out. You know what might actually work better? Why don't you just call him? It's not good. It's not good. Yeah.
Maybe we'll just turn off your audio and run it through the phone. So keep your video camera on, because I can just mute you from here.
Yeah.
I'll talk on the phone and we'll look at you on the camera. And that's what we'll have to do.
I'm here.
All right, now I think that's better. Now count to 10, Bob, if you would.
Okay.
I got an echo in mine. I got reverb.
How many echoes do you want?
Ah,
All as many as we can get.
I think turn off one side.
Hello, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what are we doing with the echo? Should we just bail on the computer and just talk to him on the phone?
I can do that.
Yeah, let's do that. All right.
I think it might be the bonus echoing on itself.
All right, yeah, Bob.
You
Now,
know,
just
I don't want to look at myself anyway.
actually, this is perfect now. This is actually good. You sound good. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, cell phones work out here.
All right, but I'm still getting all right, so here's what we're going to do. Bob, hang up the phone with me. Disconnect from the internet. And then I'm going to call you right back and we're just going to talk on the phone. There we go. All right, we'll get through it. He's up in like the mountains of California, so we were concerned that there might be a slight issue here.
Where they got all the
I don't
snow?
know. He's up there in like Jeremy Renner country. I don't know. Somewhere. All right, Bob McNeil. Do we have you?
Hello.
Yes. Okay. Now this sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, Bob McNeil from the high country of Northern California, right? Isn't that where you are?
All I'm getting is a sound of popcorn.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
It ain't working.
It ain't working. Holy crap. Okay. All right. Hold on.
Hello. You there?
Yeah, Bob. How's that? Can you hear me?
Oh, that's much better. Thank you.
Guys, how does he sound?
I can hear him.
James, turn your mic.
He sounds like you're just holding up the phone to the microphone.
Okay. All right. So bad, like improv. Bob, can you count to 10?
1, 2. I can only
Oh,
count to
dude,
8,
stop.
I think. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. All right. James is the sound guy. He's not liking this. Let's see if we can do something different. Bob, can you give me a 10 count again? See, he can't hear me. Why can't he hear me?
No, he can't hear us either.
I don't know why that is. All right. Can you hear me, Bob?
So here's plan B in the private chat.
We're not really doing well with program directors.
No.
I think we're 0 for 3.
All right. So what are the ideas?
In the private chat, send me the phone number.
Okay.
I think I can get it to work on my end.
Well,
Emil, while we're doing this, tell a joke, entertain the folks. Thank you. Go.
tell a joke and entertain the
ready to go.
folks. All right. Well, let me see. Jokes. I don't really have any jokes, but I do have some interesting content that occurred over the weekend.
All right. Just so you're ready to wrap it up at any moment, because that ain't my end. What are you guys hearing?
Okay.
Hey, Bob.
Hello? Yes.
Y'all hear that?
I can hear Bob. Can Bob hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Looks like we got it. I don't know why it didn't work from this end, but there we go. All right, Bob, I'm so sorry about that. Bob, so we're just going to, I guess we're going to start from the beginning. Well, actually, is there anything that you would like to say just before we get started here?
Yeah, I started to say I want to thank you for asking me to be on with you guys because I haven't talked to you in a while, and I miss you. And I thought that I've been following your moves ever since I left Dallas, and I really appreciate it. It's a great talent. So thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. 23 years too late, so it's reciprocal. You've always been one of our favorite people. We one of the great.
Wait a minute. I didn't fire you, okay?
No, you didn't. That's why you're one of my favorite people.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, you fired me.
But then again, for the first year, you weren't allowed to fire me. So, it was...
Yeah, I know. There was this little Why does corporate always mess everything up I want to do? But anyway,
I don't know.
And I owe you a thank you for allowing me on air and then leaving the next week, but at least I stayed. That
had
was
I known I
good.
was leaving the next week, I wouldn't have done that to you. But that's all right.
It worked out great. I got introduced on Liz Wild, and then she was gone.
So you
the
did
next
fire
day.
James Parker, though. Do you remember firing James Parker?
I'm sorry to say that I do. Yes.
James, there you go.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal, guys. Most of the people who I fired end up being some of my best friends later. Because it's clear that I was wrong.
Well, I think James's offense was definitely one that should have gotten a firing. If that was the first time you were
Yeah,
fired, James.
if to remember correctly, James, you went on a station's website to promote a Bobby Garza appearance, and you said on the station website you wrote, "Go out and see that suave motherfucker, Bobby Garza."
And get some free shit.
And get some free shit brought to you by Frankel and Frankel or whatever.
No,
or Everett Newton. But anyway, let me just say from the start that who killed Live 105.3. This is a station never should have been, and it never should have been a success. I mean, no, seriously. I mean, let me give you a little backstory here that I don't think many people know.
Please.
Bill Figgenshoe and I went back many, many years. Bill was the president of Viacom, CBS, and he was in charge of the Dallas station at the time. I don't remember whether he was like a big VP or a president, but anyway. And when he hired me for Young Country, he really hired me to kill it. I'm not kidding.
Now, what do you mean? Because, Bob, you were a pretty decorated country programmer. You had been in the business for a number of years. CBS Corporate doesn't just move around pawns. I mean, you were thrown into a big market here in Dallas and given Young Country. Why on earth would they want you to fail?
Okay, well, let me give you the backstory. From the time Fig hired me, I knew that Young Country was toast. Because when he hired me, he said, listen, whatever we do, I know you can do it. I'm like, oh, okay. So country really isn't the end game here. Okay. I mean, I didn't say that, but that was pretty clear. So, I mean, he hired me for Young Country actually to kill it, seriously. Because the Alliance people that we bought the station from, they never understood why it was successful. They thought it was an edgy personality. It was an edgy personality-driven music station, but they didn't know that it wasn't about the music. It was about the edgy personalities. So when it started to fail, they didn't know how to fix it because they didn't know anything about the music. It was all about the personalities. The Stubby Doak and the AJ Pantoja and all that crap, But it was a high personality, Young Country station. And they didn't realize it was about the music. And once the music started to fail, they didn't know what to do. What are you going to do? Add more personality? No. So anyway, this
was a full-on music station at the time, right? I mean, you're playing 12 songs an hour. It's not a personality. Or are you telling me that there was personality elements built in?
No, yeah, there was a high degree of personality at Young Country.
Huh.
And that's what drove the success. It was the attitude of the station, which, by the way, mirrored, the talk that rocks Texas pretty well. They had bigger male numbers than female numbers, which is really, kind of odd. And it was a very young country station, hence the name Young Country. But they didn't understand how it all worked. And by the time, CBS, Viacom, or whoever the hell it was at the time bought the station, it was already, going in the tank.
How long had it been Young Country at this point? Like, was it a legacy station? I mean, Young Country, I guess, wasn't a legacy format.
No. It was not a legacy country station in any way, shape, or form. I think they've been country for like maybe 8 years, something like that.
Bob, James has a technical question for you. James, what's the question? I didn't understand how to.
Can you use that same link that Pug sent you earlier, and just pull your camera back up, and I'll mute you from over here. And I think the audio and video would work together now.
Okay, maybe I can. Let's see what I do here.
But he has to mute his camera mic, right? His mic.
I can take care of that over here.
Okay.
Okay.
Right now, he's like appearing like Charlie from Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
No image,
A lot of people
just
do,
the voice.
just the phone only. But I think we can do both.
That's pretty much my whole life right there.
It kind of is, right?
Yeah.
Now, James, do I have to send him another link?
No,
I
no,
don't,
same
because
link
the
is fine.
show's still going
I'm
on.
reconnecting on the same link. So
Okay.
anyway. But yeah, when Fig hired me and said, whatever we decide to do, I know you can do it. That was like, what?
So how much time out were you there? Like, were we talking a year, 2 years before the flip?
No, wasn't that long.
Oh, really?
Maybe 18 months total.
Because AJ Pantoja,
AJ Pantoja.
he survived the flip, yes? Wasn't he the midday guy for a while there on 105.3?
No, he was the afternoon guy, because the real backstory here, I don't know how much you want to get into this before we get the stream up or anything, but the fact is we were held hostage to Howard Stern's contract negotiations. The deal was we would not start this hot talk station, which was Bill Figgishew's, format that he wanted everywhere.
Yeah.
We would not start it without Stern and Morning Drive, because that was suicide.
Yeah. Now, was Howard not with CBS at this time? I thought he was with CBS in New York. Okay, so
but he and
Clear Channel had a deal.
Well, they were renegotiating his contract,
right?
And Dallas was a big market, and so they were holding Dallas hostage. They weren't going to give us Stern in the market until they renegotiated his contract and upped his compensation like a ton.
Okay. Well,
so we have to start the station with no Howard Stern, which is like, what the hell am I doing?
I didn't even know this. I didn't know the station was launched without Howard. I thought Howard signing coincided with the launch of the station. It was the whole reason for the station. Okay. Did either of you guys know this, Emil or James?
No, I had no idea.
So then let's start with square one. When the station first flipped to the Talk That Rocks Texas, away from Young Country to 105.3 a talk format, what was the original lineup on the flip?
Well, we had already hired Russ Martin to do Afternoon Drive. But when we found out we couldn't do Stern, I had to put Russ in Morning Drive. I mean, he was the biggest personality I had. So I got to throw him in Morning Drive. And then in middays, I got nobody. I got nothing. So we get Ed Till. Ever heard of him?
Yeah, James, didn't you work with Ed Till? Didn't you have some run-ins with Ed Till or something? I worked with him in Chicago at the Loop back in the early 90s.
Well, I think he was in Detroit, wasn't he?
He was all over. He's the much-traveled Ed Till. That guy is like a cockroach. He just seems to survive. Yeah. James, you didn't work with Ed?
No, you're thinking of Lee Abrams. I had run-ins with Lee Abrams in New Orleans through Tribune.
Those stories. I got better stories about Lee Abrams, but we'll move on. No, Ed Till was like, and I went crazy.
I'd like to hear those. Not today. We'll get together. I'd love to hear your Lee stories. But not here.
They're good. But anyway, so Ed Till and his I don't remember what network deal he had. Am I still on the phone?
I don't know. Are you guys seeing me?
Yeah, we're seeing you now on the camera. But James, if we're gonna have the echo, we're gonna have to get rid of the camera again.
No echo. Watch. Talk. See.
You want me to hang up the phone?
No. You sound great. Yeah, just do it like this. Yeah, you're using the phone's mic and the computer's camera. We're good.
All right, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I had to hold over A.W. Pantoja to do Afternoon Drive because that's what he was doing on Young Country, so I just kept him in there. By the way, you know that his producer guy was Jim Verdi, right?
I did not know.
He's now producing Bongino.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's
anyway.
So look at the people who started at 105.3. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's what our lineup was. Middays was Katie. What the hell was her name?
Oh God, she was the midday person on Young Country, and I kind of had to cobble together. No, Ed Till did middays. That's right. And
All right, so you had
I
Russ
don't
in
even
mornings, Ed
remember,
Till in middays, and then you had
remember the
AJ
nights. Yep,
somewhere in there.
nights. I have no idea. I don't remember.
No idea. Bob McNeil. What was the lineup?
Not
What was
Richard
the
Hunter.
lineup at the
No,
lounge?
it wasn't
No
Richard Hunter.
idea. No.
Not a clue.
All right, so
But
you're
it's like,
so you're rolling now.
what can I put on the air? I just got to do something. But I was blessed because I got I got this call from corporate, and they're like, "You're going to hire Pugs and Kelly."
You got no choice.
Like they were crammed down.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, what's the deal?" And we all know what the deal was, and I don't want to get into it because whatever. But
Well, no, it's an open book. I went back to Chicago and made up with Mr. Dahl, and we're all good. It's a good.
Please get into it, please.
Basically,
well,
Kelly and I.
you know what the good news is, Pugs? The good news, Pugs, is you got a great education in Chicago.
Yeah,
Really
almost
did.
cost me my career if not for you.
Well, no, but you guys are talented. You and Kelly, we're both talented people with great, camaraderie, a great chemistry, and it took a little while with you guys on overnights to get it going. But man, I loved it. I loved you guys. I thought you guys had great, talent, great camaraderie, and it turned out pretty good for you.
You were forced to take us on because of a
Oh,
situation that
no.
was
Force is too strong a word.
really.
Force is too strong a
Oh,
word.
I know.
It was like,
Reed liked us. Reed invented us. Reed put us together. So I know it wasn't a full-on forced job. There was some desire to see us succeed because Reed had invested time in us in Chicago.
Wait.
I mean,
What word
no,
did
no,
you
wait.
use? What word would you use?
We weren't forced. It was just part of a legal deal that we had.
yes. But Bob and I had no, a lot of times you get jobs in this business because you have relationships with people. Bob and I, we had no relationship. And, we did have a relationship with the general manager, which afforded us, some level of comfort. But I can tell you that we were scared shitless of Bob McNeil. The idea that Bob McNeil was going to hate us. We walked into that place going, this poor man has been in this business for decades, and now he's finding himself forced to deal with us because of our nonsense. We were scared shitless of you, and you were so kind to us. You'd taken us out to dinner. You would go out on our appearances. You'd climb in the limo with us just to make sure that everything. I mean, you really went above and beyond to make us, a couple of incredibly scared kids, feel like, okay, maybe we can do this. So thank you for that. That was your people management skills.
You're more than welcome, but trust me, it was all, that was all fake. I was just trying to get a good show going. So.
You didn't give a fuck. You didn't care.
It's sort of like my relationship with Russ Martin, which,
We'll talk about that, but first we do need to mine some original territory here with you. We need to know about Ron and Don because they are sort of the missing piece in this whole thing. Ron and Don, they came to you how? They were here for a year. What was the relationship there? Especially I'm interested in the relationship between Ron and Don and Russ. But go ahead, Bob. Tell us a little bit about them.
You weren't forced on me. Ron and Don were.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little better.
I guess I'll just go ahead and I don't care what I expose because I'm retired. It doesn't matter anymore.
That's why we want you.
My Medicare deductible is paid up for the year, and my prostate's good, and I got 20 complaint minutes. So what the hell do I do?
Bob's on house money. Yeah, he's on house money at this point. Let's go.
Yeah. No, Ron and Don was a corporate push. I would never have said, hey, these are my guys. I want these. And they were the biggest pain in my ass of any talent I've ever encountered in my life, including Russ Martin. Okay?
Really? Wow.
Well, and I'll get into Russ later, but the truth is, I didn't have to deal with Russ when he got crazy. Okay? When I was dealing with Russ, he was only semi-crazy. He wasn't totally insane. He wasn't somebody that would beat somebody up or, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He got worse and worse and worse as time went on, and thank God I wasn't having to deal with him. And I don't know if we want to do the Russ Martin show now or
Well, actually, I want to go back to Ron and Don, but I do want to say something about the
Okay.
Russ Martin, because let's talk about Russ next. There were two eras of Russ, when he was a playful prick, when he could get away with shit, and that was when you were there. And then there was the complete narcissist, out of control bully who was just one of the worst individuals I've ever had to spend time with. That all happened.
And
The changes.
I will tell you that I've read a lot about, I guess, in the Dallas, whatever the paper was.
Observer.
Yeah, the Observer. And I saw somebody there that I didn't know. In their description of the things that he was doing and how he was handling himself on and off the air, I was like, I can believe that's where he went, but he wasn't there when I was there. Okay.
And that's my point. There was a change that occurred in him when you left. It was almost like from the time that you and Reed left, suddenly it was, hey, we've got a substitute teacher now. And you know how it is with substitute teachers. The bad kids in the class will screw around. There were two very distinct eras of Russ Martin, and I believe they coincide with your departure from the station.
I totally agree with that, because my feeling was, when I was there, there were guardrails. When I was there, he understood how far he could go. And he went there every day. Okay. And he pushed it every day, but he didn't go over that every day. And he didn't, intimidate people in the way that I saw happened after I left. And whether that was because I was able to guide him in a direction that other people maybe weren't, or whatever, it doesn't matter. But that's the point, was that the things that I read about the things that he was doing, I don't believe would have occurred if I'd stayed there.
I don't either.
Guardrails up, and I don't think he would have gone over the guardrails. But
I think he would have evolved. He would have. Nothing would have stopped him from being the jackass that he would become. But you and Reed were there when he walked in, and it was almost like, when a dog walks into another dog's house. This was your and Reed's house, so you had some sort of sway over the way he behaved. When you guys were gone, and it was suddenly his house in his backyard, the new program directors and the new revolving door of GMs never stood a chance. It was just...
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when we hired Russ, Reed and I had dinner with him somewhere up on the expressway, I can't remember where, and did his contract on a cocktail napkin. And that's the kind of relationship that Reed and I had with him. It was total trust. It was, and we were giving him more money than he had ever made, or maybe even imagined he would make in his life, with bonuses and on and on and on. But, it was like there was a basic relationship there between us of trust that I don't think anybody else would ever have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we don't want to get into. I guess you don't want to talk about Ron and Don, because I guess they're not going to be a very big player in this documentary anyway. They were only there for a year.
I'd be happy to talk about them, except I've tried to wipe all the memories out.
Well, I think it should be noted that they left Dallas and went on to have a successful career in the Pacific Northwest. So God love them, whatever it is that they did. But when they were in Dallas, what was I believe that the whole vibe, the everybody at war, all the other shows at war with Russ Martin, that whole vibe was probably laid by the relationship between Russ Martin and Ron and Don. Did you have to referee that? I mean, was there trouble between those shows?
There was nothing but trouble between those two shows, which is why Ron and Don had to go. I mean, for whatever you think, whatever you want to know, I mean, we were doing like almost $20 million in billing,
right,
on that radio station, and Ron and Don weren't contributing anything to that. I mean, it comes down to money, it comes down to finance. Russ, for whatever you hate, like, whatever, he was contributing a lot to the bottom line of that radio station in terms of, billing. So, I mean, I remember I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I knew I was getting fired when Kurt Johnson got named the vice president of programming for the market.
Okay, now let's play a little name association with Bob McNeil. Mr. Kurt Johnson, your thoughts on him, Bob?
Well, I fired him in New York when he was the PD of WLTW, and I was a VP of programming at Viacom. So this was vengeance time.
Yeah, that's the worst when somebody you fire comes back around and now they're your boss.
Oh yeah.
Like, when you heard that, did you know you were immediately done?
As soon as I heard that he was appointed VP of the market for programming, I got out my resume.
Good enough.
Yeah.
We have a question from the Facebook feed. The cocktail napkin contract. How much money do you remember?
What was Russ Martin's contract?
How much did Ron and Don cost the
No.
station?
The cocktail napkin contract for Russ Martin. You know, he's gone. You're retired. Throw the number out there. Brandon wants to know from Facebook.
Let me guess. I'll tell you what. I'll throw a guess, and Bob, you go. You tell me higher or lower. Okay.
Okay.
All right. My guess would be 2,000. Top 5 market, Dallas. Russ Martin, big player, new 750.
What we paid Russ?
Yeah. What was the number written on the contract? Higher or lower?
Little bit lower.
Okay.
We started him out at about half a mil, 500,000.
All right, that's well, all right, but it went higher. I mean, as I recall.
Well, he had bonuses. That would take him to 750,000, and he got them.
Yeah. Well, he was a cash machine. There's no denying. He was a tremendous personality, tremendous broadcaster. It's the man that we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like Howard, talking about, Donald Trump. It's the policies versus the personality. Yeah. It's like hate the personality, but liking the results. So
art and the artist.
We were doing about $22 million in billing at the time. We were number one, 25, 54 men. So
yeah. Radio will never see those numbers again. Can you imagine terrestrial radio billing 20 million?
Nope.
No, never gonna happen. Okay, so James E, you guys have anything for Bob?
Well,
Bob's got a lot of stories I want to get into, but go ahead. I want to move the ball.
I hate to go out of order, but I've never heard Bob McNeil's resume. He mentioned he was in the New York market for a while at Viacom, but I don't know where you were, like what all you did before you got to 105.3.
Yeah, tell us your radio story. Where'd you start?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick thumbnail.
Thank you.
And Bill Figgenshaw, who hired me in Dallas, fired me 3 times and hired me 4 times. So
Billy Martin-ish.
Yeah.
Right.
But wait a second, Bob. Where are you originally from? Are you Southeast? Is that where you're from? Southeast?
No. I was born in Connecticut, at Manchester, Connecticut. Went to school in Boston at Northeastern University. Okay. Got a little vacation in Southeast Asia with the Army in 1970. And then came back and worked in Richmond and then Tampa. You want me to name the 14 cities I worked?
Yes.
Yeah. For us, that's interesting.
Okay. Mobile, Richmond, Tampa, Phoenix, Washington, D.C., New York City, Los Angeles.
Sideways.
God, I'm Dallas. I'm leaving some stuff out, but
so you hit the big ones.
But yeah, I was VP of programming at Viacom for 5 years in New York, breathing the rarefied air at 1515 Broadway on the 40th floor.
Yeah, I want to stop you there for a second, because that's the thing, boy, in this business. What was that like working in New York, huh? The media capital of the world. What year are we talking here?
1987, 8, 9, 90. Yeah, right.
Stern years. You saw the rise of Stern from close up.
Oh, baby. Well, no, mostly I saw it on an airplane.
Or flying from place to place.
Flying from New York to work at Chicago, Detroit, San Francisco, L.A., Denver, Houston. I'm leaving something out, but I was on an airplane most of my life. Wow. I was married at the time, and I would come home and spend 3 days at the house in New Jersey, and she would say, "Don't you have someplace you need to go?" I mean,
yeah.
No, seriously. a little side story. Back then, New York had a commuter tax. If you worked in the city of New York and you lived in New Jersey, you had to pay commuter income tax in New York. Later was found to be illegal, and they got rid of it. But the last year I was there, my assistant gave me my tax results. And she said, "You worked 48 days in the city of New York."
That's it.
What? 48 days?
Yeah.
That's not even once a week.
No. So I
Right.
had 2 assistants that they hired and fired, and I never met. Last time in New York.
So it wasn't exactly the New York lifestyle that I dream of, where you're dancing, skipping through Times Square on your way to the trendiest club.
No, I was skipping through Times Square, but that was over the fecal matter on the street was what it was.
I'll tell you that we were Kelly and I got wined and dined by Sirius once, and they took us to New York, and we didn't take that deal, and that was just the most intoxicating trip. Just to be treated like that in New York City, it was quite a thing.
Well, Pugs can relate to this story. I had to go to Chicago because LIT was one of our stations, WLIT.
Okay. Sure.
And I'll give a little backstory. It was WLAK, the lake. Before that, it played all instrumentals. And we were copying the format we did at WLTW in New York, which was the highest billing station in America. So we changed the music a little bit on LIT, like no instrumentals and all vocals. And we had to go to a meeting with Mel.
Mel Carnazon.
No, not Mel. It was before Mel. With the board, anyway, to approve the changes. And they said, "We heard that you changed the format in Chicago." And we went, No, we just had some vocals. Anyway, so, but the best day of my life, Pugs, was the day I discovered that I could fly from New York and go to the office at 150 North Michigan and never go outside.
Yeah, that's a nice thing.
Yeah, it was. I could go to O'Hare, go down to L, go all the way downtown, do the underground shit all the way to 150 North Michigan, and up the elevator, and I'm in the office. I never had to go outside and deal with the ropes on Michigan Avenue. So
or the falling ice. That's something people from out of town, they think like when people come to Texas, they want to take them on a snipe hunt. People think that the falling ice from buildings is like a snipe hunt. I'm like, no, you'll get impaled by a icicle falling from 100 stories up.
Not that people didn't wish that would happen to me, but that's another story.
Hey, you're not a good programmer if people don't want you dead. That's
you got it.
Be a pretty smart way of looking at it. Go ahead. I know you probably have some
Well,
questions.
one thing that
Let me go on to the next thing, which is why did we change this wonderful moniker of the Talk That Rock Texas?
Yeah, you know what? Okay. So tell me about that, because Live 105.3. I'm sorry, we'll get back to you.
no, that's fine.
Live 105.3. It was only Live 105.3 like 3 years, and that was after Howard. So it really doesn't fit with what we're trying to encompass here. We want the Howard years to be included and all that stuff. I make no distinction between the Talk That Rocks and Live 105.3. Tell me about the Talk That Rocks. What was that? Who came up with that? Tell me about that format.
I think that I believe that was a Reed, Reeker, and I vodka thing.
Just some hotel bar somewhere. Reed's got 1 foot in Chicago, 1 foot in Dallas. You guys come up with that.
Yeah, and all the liners like, if you change stations, you'll die. Eventually. What it was psychotic liners and positioning. And it just seemed to work. But yeah, the Talk That Rocks Texas it made sense to people because Texas people are different, as you know. I mean, and they are proud of Texas. There's some meat there. So, we wanted to have that. And the Talk That Rocks seemed to make sense to 18 to 49 males.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember the day we arrived in town, we were getting driven back to the station from the airport, and you and Reed Reeker had picked up Kelly and me. And one of the first things that you said to me, Bob, was one of the first pieces of advice as a fellow non-native Texan. You turned to me and you said, "Pugs, you have to understand one thing. This is a city that defines itself entirely by a football team and the assassination of a president, and they hate liars." And I always remembered that. I'm like, wow, that's my first bit of Dallas advice. And they hate liars. That was great.
it continues to today, although it's become a lot more liberal. But anyway, but Live 105 was line extension. That was a corporate line extension for all the live stations they had all over the country at CBS, and most of them were music stations, which is what was like, oh my God, are you really kidding me? And we had call letters KYNG.
Right, we borrowed all the branding from Live in San Francisco, didn't we? I mean, even our colors,
right.
We just borrowed it from San Francisco.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, I always thought it was really obvious that we should have been like the king of talk.
And
KYNG, they were the king of country. Why can't we just be the king of talk?
And was that all borrow and stuff?
KYNG was wonderful call letters if you were a young country station. If you were a talk station, it didn't make sense.
Oh, I don't know if you had...
When he bought a station, he thought that the call letters were part of the gravitas that he was buying. So he never changed call letters, ever. I mean, it was very much against Mel's wishes to change callers. I said, listen, guys, you're bringing baggage with KYNG that doesn't match the format. And it took me like 2 years to get it through and get it done. And by then we were Live 105, and then it was KLLI. But, I would have chosen something else. But,
I think you could have made... You could have made an argument for keeping King with Howard Stern in mornings because he was branding himself as the king of all media. So, you could have done that the way they did some Rush radio stations, where they positioned that way. But I look, it doesn't really matter to me either way, because
I'm sorry, I should have asked you, but I didn't,
Yeah, I know, but I didn't get post on that one. Can I get the next question?
Yes, James.
All right, I want to know what it was like in the office of Bob McNeil when we found out Howard Stern's going to go to Sirius and we have to replace him, and we all get a cram down of something crappy like a David Lee Roth. And so, were you how hard did you fight against that? How hard?
Bob, was Bob with us then?
No,
Bob,
I think he was gone.
Weren't you gone before the Howard flip?
I was gone when his contract came up and he went to satellite.
Serious? Yeah. Okay.
Well, then I retract my question.
that would be a question for Gavin, who we probably won't have on. Yeah, go ahead.
I think one thing that Bob has said, right, that I went back in my memory and I thought about was like when Bob was there, I was just there for like one split second, like 1 week, I think it felt like, because I came in and I had to do some talking in front of the program director, which was Bob. He then cleared me to go on air, and then they put me on Liz, and Liz was gone, and then Bob was gone. And the thing that resonates, that what he said was that first week when I went in there, I sat down on Russ's bench, and they were like, Mr. Martin will not allow you to sit on his weight bench. And at this point, I'm a paying infomercial advertiser, and he's telling me to get off his damn bench. And then later, like you said, he kind of grew into this other monster when I was actually on air, and he was there on a Saturday, and he went by our call screener, the girl that was there, and he joked with her about a gun when he had gotten caught in that whole person that Bob said he didn't know. And I thought to myself, yeah, that really was kind of a progression. It went from like him joking inside the studio about me sitting on his weight bench to then he was going down the hall and making the call girl feel nervous because he was like joking about a gun. And yes, there was, you can't make eye contact with them in the hallway and all that nonsense that just kind of escalated it up. But that was actually, I thought, really insightful the way that Bob said that. Like he kept him in check, and then once he got out, he progressed.
That's been my my recollection as I write this story. Bob, here we got a couple of pictures for you here to take a look at. I don't know if you can see the screen there. These are some of the pictures that were found. Do you remember this picture here, Bob?
That's my son there on the right, I think.
Yeah, that's your son. There's Bob. This is, I believe, my God, probably my 33rd, 34th birthday. Can I just point out what a freak show Tyson Walter was? Look at the size.
Yeah, man. He talked like with a really low voice, too.
I mean,
absurdly low.
I mean, we got a beautiful Sybil. We got a Bobby Garza. We've got Bob McNeil, my girlfriend Nico at the time, and then we got Kelly and and Shrek. What the hell?
And he's like 24 in that picture.
Yeah, no, he's a rookie. He's 22. He's 22.
Yeah.
Here we go. Bob, you want to explain this one?
Oh my God, no! Did I really? I did not really. With Ron Jeremy?
Yeah.
That's a stunt double.
Yeah, we all have these pictures somewhere, Bob.
I assume these are fish stories, Bob.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there's nothing hanging out of my pants.
Bob, speaking of something hanging out of your pants, what's going on here? This looks like a station party. You seem to be having a good time.
Pretty obvious to me what's going on there.
Yeah, the wife was at home. That's what's pretty obvious to me.
I think I'd already divorced her at that point.
If not, the next day. That's yeah. So I found all these great pictures. You know, I was thinking one of these shows, guys, James, when we don't have a guest, maybe at some point this week, we just go through the pictures. We just talk about the pictures and the people in the pictures, and we talk about the stories, and let's see what we can get out of that. Because I'm telling you, those pictures are magical. They just totally took me back to a time and a place. Okay, so in closing, let's talk about Reed Reeker. I want to throw a couple of names out at you. Give me your thoughts on Reed. Reed came in. I don't know if you guys had known each other. Reed was kind of the hot shot with this format. He was a programmer. You were a programmer. Did you dudes have an understanding, or what was that like?
Oh yeah. I mean, we hit it off instantly. But who doesn't with Reed?
Right.
Reed's one of the most beautiful people on the planet. Yeah. How can you not get along with Reed?
He really is.
But I mean, I love that man.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved him. I have 5 top general managers I've worked with in my life. He's all of them.
There you go. All 5. How do you work in this business as long as he has and never find anyone who doesn't like him? He's had to fire entire sales floors. And I'm telling you, nobody says a bad word about the man.
He's a guy that can scuff up. I mean, he can take you apart and not leave a mark on your shoes. You know, it's amazing. He's a wonderful, caring human being, a brilliant man, a manager of people that unlike anyone else in the whole business I've ever met. Now, I've got a lot of great, general managers I've worked for. He's, like I said, number 1 through 5.
He took me apart. As you just said, he took me apart once in Chicago when I was a very young, first starting out with this thing. Reed Reeker took me apart. I thought my career was over. And then as I was getting up to leave, it was closing time. We went out and got shit-faced on Rush Street in Chicago.
Of course.
He's that kind of boss. It's like he still let me know that he believed in me, but, the bullshit's got to stop. And, he was just a wonderful manager of people.
Yeah, you nailed it. I mean, he knew everybody. He had a different button to push for everybody who worked with him.
Yeah,
he knew your button and he pushed it, and he pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed you to the point where you did your best work. And
you couldn't be mad at him. You really couldn't. He's not a guy you can stay mad at.
Emil, go.
Yeah, I have a question. So you said that there were nothing but problems between Ron and Don and Russ's show. Can you elaborate on that? Like, what were those problems?
No. No, I mean...
It was just two alphas, right? It was 2 big male egos.
Yes, it was just who's the biggest cock in the roost.
And so do you think Russ was like trying to bully to make sure that he was the biggest? And at their expense, would he like throw their show under the bus?
Or did Ron and Don not know their place and were overstepping?
Yeah, they were nothing compared to Russ in terms of talent. And Russ knew that. Okay, so and he exploited that constantly, and they couldn't handle it. And so they tried to fight back, and it got ugly every single day. I had psychology sessions in my office every freaking day. Not that I didn't have psychology sessions in my office with people who worked on the Russ Martin show, because I'll tell you my Valerie Dorr stories and everybody will die. But anyway, no, I mean, but Ron and Don, they weren't that great. They weren't good enough that he thought they were a lot better than they really were. That's what it came down to.
Okay.
And a minor footnote in the stations.
And then Valerie and Russ dated at one time, correct?
That would be correct.
Valerie and Russ dated? I know Valerie dated Everett. I didn't know Valerie dated Russ.
Yes.
This might be the psychology that was going on in Bob's office.
Hey, we got to talk to Valerie. Now that I keep forgetting, why do I keep forgetting
we need to talk to Valerie. I would recommend it highly. I mean, we're talking tears in my office at least once a week.
Oh my God! Well, you know, radio people, we are very, very emotional. I'm sure. I'm sure you've been through that a time or two. All right, let me.
Yes, so am I.
So let's with the end here. I threw out a couple of names of the people that I wanted to hear your takes on. Why don't you spend a couple of minutes and just tell us about the complicated nature of managing Russ Martin?
Oh boy. I had to play the game with him as far as I could. You know, I mean, I recognized the fact that I was a foil on his show, and that's fine. What do I care? You know, I mean, you want to make fun of me because I play golf all the time. By the way, I got to get going. I got a tee time at 8:20. But no, seriously, it's like that was part of the content of his show. So I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you know, I'm pretty secure in who I am and everything, so I had no problem with that. And if it added to the entertainment value, you know, everybody hates their boss. The people we were broadcasting to, 90% of them hate their boss.
Yeah.
Right.
If this guy on the air could make a fool of his boss, and that added to the entertainment value of the show and added, you know, some element that helped to contribute to the success, and probably not much, but whatever, I'm good with it. I'm fine with that. You know, I'm the guy that nobody ever saw. I was behind the scenes. I'm the guy that played golf all the time. I never worked. I wasn't there. All that stuff. And that's what everybody feels isn't really the truth about their boss. And that, of course, that was back, as I said, when Russ was kind of making sense, you know, and understood the audience and what made them tick.
I would say this. I would point this out about what you just said. During your tenure with Russ as his boss, he made fun of you, but he painted you as just sort of the typical suit. You know, that's what you were management, you were the boss, and it wasn't us against them. It was us, the listener, and the Russ Martin Show against the suits and the boss in the corner office and all that. We got that. But it was always made clear that you were his boss. With later program directors, that was not the case. The later program directors were humiliated to a level that you never even came. It was always known that you were the boss and that there was a limit and a line that Russ wouldn't cross. When you left, that was gone. The next program director didn't enjoy that luxury.
No, I know Gavin Spittle, for whatever reason, didn't seem to have the guardrails that I had.
None.
And whatever. So, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. Your assessment is right on.
How about Russ the Man? I mean, obviously you had some quiet time with him as a dude. I mean, what was he like? Because we've heard some very complicated descriptions of him. We've heard everything from, you know, he had a shit home life growing up and it kind of affected the way he interacted and connected to people. And Russ the Man, we know he's an incredibly talented broadcaster and he was wonderfully successful. But Russ the Man, tell me about the late Russ Martin. Or is there no distinction?
To me, there was none. I mean, I don't know. I tried not to get involved in his personal life because it was a mess. And as a management person in my role as his boss, I don't need to be involved in his personal life and his how much did I get involved in your personal life or Kelly's or anybody else?
Bob didn't care.
I avoided that because that's your life, and it has nothing to do with what I'm telling you that I need from you as a personality on the radio station. I mean, I think in a lot of cases that just complicates things.
Well, I think that you as a manager, you understood that this was not a top 40 format where we had to sweep the quarter hour. So the traditional job of a program director did not apply. We were entertainers hired to entertain a select audience for 4 hours a day. And you allowed us the creative room to be able to do that in this format, which was something that, wasn't done anywhere else. I mean, so you kind of trusted us. Now, when we heard from Bob when it was something to do with something a little sketchy. Maybe we came a little too close to the line of vulgarity or what is acceptable, or advertisers. But other than that, management did not dabble in the shows the way that Gavin did. Gavin seemed, he was younger. You were more accomplished. You understood talent. Maybe he felt he needed to justify his position by dabbling where you didn't.
I don't know. I always believe that you give your talent, especially in this kind of format, you give them the room to make mistakes. Okay? If you're tightly controlling people, you're not going to get the best performance out of them. You're not going to get them to reveal themselves and put themselves out there. Because in this format, you got to put yourself out there. And if you are reluctant to do that, you're going to fail. And so I never tried to interfere with your ability to make a mistake, because everybody learns from those, and so do it.
Emil?
I have a question. So the format, who came up with the concept of live reads with the advertiser? Because it's interesting when you say you were billing like 20 some million and you were leading in billing. Who helped craft the live read with the on-air personality and with sales as a way to lure advertising in and build that loyalty? Because I think that was a lot of the ongoing year after year success.
That was pretty much industry standard though among talk formats where the live reads had existed.
That was inherent in the high personality formats, that the endorsement revenue was always very high, on the list. So I can't claim that we did it. I think we just followed form where other people did.
Okay.
Wait a second. Now I do remember Bob. Bob used to have a problem when we'd do like a Frankel and Frankel spot, and he'd be standing there, and we'd finish the spot, and he'd walk in the studio, and he'd go, "That was 2 minutes. They paid for 1 minute." We'd be like, "We're sorry, Bob," but they'll
the problem was, I know that you weren't correcting the log and making it a 2-minute spot, and somebody was going to hang our ass on that. So
we were over delivering. We felt we needed to.
Okay, so can I ask this, because I'm totally new to the format at this point in time when I'm getting there. Was it different how the hosts in this particular format would include the advertisers in the content? So it seemed like that a lot of advertisers became characters in these shows.
I think that was unique to this kind of format. It really was. I mean, to some extent, in any talk format, you're going to find it. But I think to this particular genre of the talk format, it was especially true that they became characters on a lot of shows.
And it's also a terrific way to upcharge. I mean, how many of these guys are egomaniacs who want to be on the radio every day?
Yeah, and it's a vanity play.
All of them.
Right.
All of them.
Yeah, and they don't want to be on the radio with the guy who's playing 15 songs an hour.
Right. No.
All right. Are we out? Are we done here?
I got one. Listen,
Bob, go ahead.
I've always thought it's been useful to talk to guys, especially when they're retired, because they have nothing to lose and they're the most honest they've ever been. You were my first program director, and August was 20 years that I've been in radio, and I've been a talk show host for all of it. What do you want to strangle me by the neck and tell me to be a better talk show host? What do I need to do? What's your advice for me going forward?
How to be a better talk show host?
Yeah. Just what's the basics? What do I need to know? Just shout it in my face.
I'd have to hear what you do to correct it. Because you may be doing everything right.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
You don't have like a top 3, like, you know, be authentic or
No.
tell the truth or make it matter or something to
No,
that
no,
effect.
Can you guys
no.
hear
The
the
things
music playing?
I can.
You can't.
Yeah,
Okay, there shouldn't be any music playing. The phone is turned off, and yet somehow this app is playing. Sorry, go ahead. I mean to interrupt. I'm having some technical issues on my side.
No, and I'm just saying that the things that I would tell Pugs or Pugs and Kelly about this show to make it more successful would be completely different than what I would tell you, based on your approach, your content, your demeanor. Those are all unique. So I wouldn't pretend to put down the top 5. I mean, obviously, if you can't relate to the audience, if you can't make things stimulate them on a daily basis, you're going to lose. You're going to fail. Okay, that's number one. But beyond that, I don't know how much I could help you without hearing and knowing where you're going and what you're doing and what your background is and how you approach the show.
He's going to shotgun you a demo now, Bob. Be ready for it.
I would say make the phone ring.
Yeah, well, connect.
That
Just connect.
That maybe, but make people engage. Grab them by the throat, and drag them in, and and be out there, be controversial, step out.
Be provocative. I don't know how we shock people anymore. Bob, what is we'll get you out on this because any old G of the radio game probably has some takes on the current state of radio. What do you think of your beloved art form as it sits in 2023?
Well, it's sad. And it's sad because of consolidation. That's what really killed it. It's taken a long time because they've done all the financial manipulation that they can do to keep it alive. But the fact of the matter is that, people like Pittman and iHeart went out and bought properties at 15 times cash flow because they thought there was a bigger fool that would come along later and buy it for 20 times cash flow, which was idiotic, but that's what they thought. So they bought stuff at a price that was, not sustainable. So now they've got debt they cannot meet, and there's no way around it. That's why you see them selling stations. I mean, everybody's selling stations to EMF, the religious broadcaster, which is where stations that are broke go to die. So, and you're going to see iHeart dumping stations. You're going to see, Urban One today dumped some stations. The only thing they have is assets, and the assets aren't worth what they were worth when they bought them, and they certainly don't have the cash flow they had when they bought them.
But it's not iHeart specific. Like Odyssey did it, Cumulus did it. They've all done it.
Yeah,
and that's why the overall industry is in the state that it is. Do you see? I've got my fingers and toes crossed here, thinking that, boy, at some point maybe Dallas Fort Worth's #1 Chevy dealer or something might scoop in here. Do you ever see these big giant corporate stations reverting back to local ownership? And could that save local radio for at least a generation? Because that's my dream, local ownership again.
No, I wish you were right, and if you were right, I would come out of retirement because I would love to do it. I mean, radio was my love, my passion for like 50 years. Okay, but the fact is that the numbers aren't there. The audiences are the total. But back in the day, all of the people in the population listened to radio.
Right.
I mean, your 12+ audience was the entire population of the market. That's not the case now, and I don't see any way that you can bring it back. I don't see it. What they did is they decided that they could expense cut their way to profitability. The biggest line item in your your P&L is people, and the most expensive people are your best and most compelling personalities. So you got to fire them all because they're just a line item in the budget. You don't understand what makes your station successful. It's not playing 15, 18 songs an hour. It's not blah blah blah. It's compelling local personalities that make radio work.
It's like being in an Italian restaurant and cutting out the pasta. I mean, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
Or
I said that earlier about Young Country. They didn't understand that it was these personalities in Young Country that they thought the personalities made it, and they didn't know what to do when it started to crash. So they just fired personalities. It's what everybody's doing.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Bob McNeil, thank you so much for joining us. This has been enlightening, and it certainly helped me in the process. And we look forward to, thank you for participating in this. Oh, James is already gone. Look at him. He's already gone. That's what he does. Oh, hello. Oh, because James is gone, we can't hear Bob now.
Oh, gosh. Oh, he's back.
There you
cut
go.
Bob off.
Good job.
No, he said he's got 3 more pages. Go, run through your notes real quick then. Just super fast go through your notes, Bob.
We don't have to leave. I didn't want to keep you. If you got more you want to talk about, let's hear it.
I got time.
I just got one more quick one, which was about how I got fired.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it. So this was the when Kurt Johnson came into play, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Kurt Johnson was made VP of Market for programming, and he would have these program director meetings for all the PDs that were under his command. And they were the most worthless. I mean, I don't want those. I want those hours back because they were worthless. But at one open meeting, he turned to me in the meeting. Well, everybody's there, and he said, "I'm really worried about your station."
In front of
And
everybody.
I said, "We're number one in our target demo. We're billing $22 million. If I were you, I'd worry about your station."
Sounds good. That sounds like what I would say.
But anyway, they said when they brought me in, of course, it was Siebert, one of your favorite general managers. They brought me in, and you walk in the room, you know what's going on. So I sat down, and they said, "We're going to take a station in a different direction." I said, "Which direction is that? Down?"
Yeah. Which direction is that?
You did not go well from there. Anyway, guys, I'm past my bedtime. I love you guys. It's been a wonderful experience. I would be more than happy to join you guys again whenever you think I fit.
Awesome.
Well, that is an offer we may take you up on. Thank you so much, Bob. It's so wonderful to see you again, and thank you for everything. We appreciate you.
Let's stay in touch. Thanks.
There, absolutely. Try harder. As I get older, I realize how important that is. There he goes, the great Bob McNeil, original program director of Live 105.3. That was fun. Reed's going to be fun, too. We're going to get Reed at some point this week. We might have to record Reed, because Reed.
I mean, I don't know. It's like, it's a walk down old memory lane, but one that doesn't make you sad. It almost makes you want to recreate it.
It's
you
not
know
sad
what I mean?
at all. I mean, it's sad from the perspective that, we all live a life, and these are the moments that maybe in the moment we didn't recognize how important they were. But when you see a picture 20 years later, you go, holy fuck. That's the importance of being human. This is, it's not sad. It's all the emotions. You know what I mean? It's all of the human stuff, which is, kind of nice. All right. Thank you, E. I'm having phone problems. Can you guys hear the closing theme?
Oh, no. It
Yeah.
sounds fine.
I can hear him. He's in the background. Why is it going on, but your phone's not on? Do you have it programmed?
Yeah, no, there's something weird going on with my phone. I got to try to figure this.
Perfect. First off, the caption is very important at the bottom of the screen. It tips the show.
It is.
Helps the people buy some groceries. And
it is, but
we all have kids, damn it.
Yeah.
Number one. And number two, listen to the Florida Stories podcast. It's actually doing pretty good. So it would do even better if you a-holes would listen to it too. Pugs, I can trace who listens to it, and I don't see you listening to it.
The Florida Stories podcast?
Yeah.
You can't trace who listens to it.
I can, and you're not listening. Angle, you're not
I
listening
listen
to it. You're dicks. All of you, if you don't listen to the Florida Stories podcast, you're a dick.
Hey, you know what I was thinking? Why don't we hit Walter back up about being on his Sunday show? No,
Sure.
No, they don't have Sundays anymore.
Hey, I heard
I'm
that
on it every Sunday.
Yeah, let's do soft. I mean, unless, you don't want to invite me. Yeah, E.
I heard that the snake guy is like having trouble.
Gary Snake?
Mhm.
Yes, there's a competitor to Gary Snake.
There's a competitor to Gary Snake now. Like, is he like? Do you think maybe he's going to stop advertising?
I don't know. We'll see. All right, that's it. All right, I love you guys. Okay, I love you too, E. All right,
I'm going to work on Al's alligators.
Al's alligator.
Yeah, since I heard there's alligators at Lake Louisville.
Are there?
That's what I
Man,
heard.
I don't need that.
I
don't need
heard that.
And you know who doesn't need that? Your son.
I know, but I heard that on the Freak. I heard
Okay.
that there
All
are
right.
alligators in Lake Louisville by a well-known boater.
We take our 2 young boys out there every weekend, and you know how fragile they are when they think there's some kind of an animal around.
I
This
know.
is not gonna be good.
I was fragile when I saw the water moccasin last summer for a while. But I've heard there's been alligators that are on the, on the shore in Lake Louisville.
All right. Well, apparently we got to get out there and do a sweep. We're gonna have to go with that. Pugs and alligator hunters.
I'd like to figure out, like, this person that said it. They were on the Freak. Like, if they actually have put eyes on an alligator in Lake Louisville, or they've just heard about an alligator in Lake Louisville. Because if you put eyes on it, I'm a little bit more concerned. If you just heard about it, I think they need brackish water.
And are we sure that it's not
salt water?
Are we sure it's not gar? Remember, there is lake.
Well, there's an
gar.
alligator-looking gar, but
Yeah.
that would be not like the width of an alligator.
No, it wouldn't. All right, developing ... We'll get into all this and more. Thank you, E. There we go. Oh. My phone is like brand new, and it's not ringing through. I'm gonna have to... Something weird. Samsung Health is running a check. All right. We'll figure it out. We'll see you tomorrow at noon, okay? Tomorrow at noon, high noon, hot topics, current events, trends, all of the things that are happening in this world. We'll get into it tomorrow at noon. All the news that's, reportable. That's what we call that. And then we'll be back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night for more Pugs and Parker with E here on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network, radiomisfits.com.